bed. I fell asleep last night. I was tired.
I get home.
Especially when you have practice until 9 o'clock and don't get home until 9:30.
Well, we got a lot to do today and a little time to go through
I
it.
got my time ready.
That will do.
Yes. Mother? Hey, you want to hear my joke about construction?
We also need joke of the day.
You want to hear my joke about construction?
Yes.
I'm still working on it.
That was a good one this time.
Oh, pretty good.
What is a fish not eyes?
What was that, Kevin?
What's a fish without eyes?
That's an old one. You're gonna have to do better than that.
You are pranking so many people with that joke.
I need bird.
Man, we have to see some people today. Here we go. The thing this is being recorded. I got even cell numbers. Should I text them this joke of the day?
Yes.
The kids an iPhone, we get FaceTime.
No. Yeah, same.
What did we do? 83 what?
1 to 9.
These should have been the easiest ones in history. Number 1, Ephraim.
I got.
Would you like to defer to number 2?
Yeah, I got 24.
For number 1?
2.
Oh. How about you, Baumgartner? You get 1 or 2? Holy smokes. Look at the world. Ronnie Johnson, help me out here.
Oh, I got it. 28 plus 1.
Where are all these 28s coming from?
I don't know. I got the same.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Leah, please stop. Please stop right now. Ladies and gentlemen, 7 plus the square root of 6. Here's where you have to be thinkers. River, we have to be thinkers. 4 minus the square root of 9. If you were a thinking man, Kevin Wills, I'm going to leave this in your ballpark here. If you were a thinking man, what would you do there?
Use foil.
I would not use foil. See, and that's where people, this is where you have to be a thinker. Automatically, you saw a binomial, and really the first thing that comes to mind should be foil. But before you proceed to foil, you should take a good hard look at both of those binomials. And Brandon Massey will tell you,
You could change the square root of 9.
yeah, the square root of 9 is a 3. Why mess around with square roots when you don't have to? This is a 3, and 4 minus 3 is 1, and 1 times anything is itself. Now, I guarantee you, you can use FOIL, and you're still going to get that answer. It's just going to be a whole lot more complicated. Was there any thinking people out there? See, you all fall into the trap of those people who write these math books. They try to fool you, they try to trick you because, well, in the real world, nothing's easy, Charlie. If it was easy, why would you take math? If everybody's going to give you the answers, why would you do math? Then number 2 is not so easy. Although you could simplify some of that. Number 2, does anybody think they have even close to the right answer? River?
X squared plus x to the square root of 3 minus 6.
You have it. River nailed it. X squared plus x times the square root of 3 minus 6. Thank you very much. Problem number 3, I don't give much hope for, but Kendall's going to try. You have what? That is not what I have. Bella?
B is less than or equal to 1.
Where'd you get that?
I don't know.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
I'm just asking. B is less than or equal to 1. Number 4, Brenda Massey, I'm counting on you.
H is less than or equal to negative.
That is correct. H is less than or equal to -5. Oh, factoring completely, Leah. You got this one. Oh, what? Huh? Say what? Say again. Kevin Wills. I'm putting all my eggs in your basket.
5. 3x cubed parentheses x minus 9 parentheses x plus 8.
Yes, yes. 3x cubed, then in parentheses x minus 9, and in parentheses x plus 8. And number 6, this one could go both. Anna Baumgartner.
Well, x plus 2, and then x minus 2.
I don't think so. And I might punt on number 6. The answer they have is, which I'm sure is correct, -12x and then in parentheses x squared plus 4. The problem with that number 6 is you'll learn in math, they don't like the first term to be negative, so you have to take a negative out of it. You should look at that. Here, let me give you the gist of that. What color shall I use?
Pink.
There is no color shell. Oh, here we go, blue. This is, if you're concerned about this problem, the cap was not on here, so I guess it doesn't work right. What was it, negative what? Charles, I was going for the garbage can, and it wasn't gonna hit you. You did not need to duck. Did you?
You did that.
I know, he didn't need to. I'm going back to, this one's dry, Charlie, you might want to duck. Negative 12x cubed minus 48x. First thing you should realize is they both have an x in them, so you can factor out an x. Second thing, like I said, and you can take a 12 out. So you can take a 12 and an x out. But never, never, never when they factor do they want their binomial to have a negative in it. So they would take a net negative out of it. And that would change this to be x squared positive, because a negative times positive gives you negative. And then this would change to positive. And this, ladies and gentlemen, looks like it could be factored out, but it can't be factored out because it's, the 3 things that have to happen is perfect square, yes, but it has to be minus. Don't get what they do now.
No, I was gonna ask if we got the negative 12x with the x minus, would that still be right? Or?
I don't know if the math people would, so you're saying you got this was positive, and then, but both of these would have to be negative.
No, I got negative 12x, and then in parentheses x plus 2, and then parentheses x minus.
No, because you can't factor this. In order for you to do what you did, this had to be a -4. Then you could factor it into x plus 2 and x minus 2. That was the 3 things that had to be true. Square, square, negative. Well, this is going to take us forever, and I have so much to do. Where are we at? 7. Is it a perfect square trinomial or the difference of 2 squares? Since I didn't tell you the difference of 2 squares, they're both perfect squares. Don't worry about that. You can factor both of them. 7 factors into x plus 5 times x plus 5, and 8 factors into x plus 6 times x plus 6. I don't care so much about that. Number 9. Think anybody got this one right? How could you show that that's a right triangle? Anybody? Let me look and see here, because this could be a tough one here. The measure of TU equals -1. How do I know that? Oh, you could tell me that. How would you know that that's a right triangle? It is a right triangle. Kevin Wells?
Find slope of the 2 angles.
Yeah, if you look at the slope of 2 of those lines, they are the negative reciprocal of each other, and if they're the negative reciprocal, that means they're perpendicular. If they're perpendicular, that means they form right angles, and if they form right angles, that means they are the right triangle. You are right about the triangle. Congratulations. Are we ready then? Can we forge ahead? Let's do this. let me show you. Take out a blank piece of paper and write, this is for John Davenberg when you get here, quadratic on it. Quadratic. We won't spend long on it, but we will introduce such things. What possibly could you want to know about a quadratic? That is the question of the hour. Why is it so hot in here?
Cue to open window.
That one.
Wait, am I sharing my screen?
Yeah.
What is that from doing? Cue the open window. All right, ladies and gentlemen, watch. Everything you need to know about quadratics is going to be right here. So take yourself a good piece of notes here. Quadratics. Got it? This is the whole kit and or caboodle. First of all, the word quad means
We should ask RJ.
4. RJ is a quad runner.
He loves quad.
This is all you need to know about a quadratic. Here, remember like a linear equation has the formula y equals mx plus b? Say yes.
Yes.
A quadratic looks like this. First of all, the function of x, which really means the same thing as y in modern day terms, looks like this. A x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, there are 4 things there, so maybe that's where quadratic comes from. But this is all you need to know, okay? We have been working with this and factoring it. The difference between this is there's an equal sign here. This factoring, this was we call a trinomial, right? Remember? Okay. So an example of a quadratic would be this. The function of x or y. Here, let me cross it off and put a y. Y equals x squared plus 3x minus 2. This is a quadratic. That's all there is to it. Okay? It's a trinomial that has an equal sign in it, really. But what you must understand, ladies and gentlemen, is this. For something to be a quadratic, it only has to have one thing. You know what it is? For something to be a quadratic, it only has to have one thing. And that one thing is, it needs to have an x squared in it, or some variable squared. In other words, why could I call this a quadratic?
Because of the x squared.
Well, because I can add the rest of it by just putting plus 0x plus 0. Okay? And if you go back in your notes and look at, we talked about the graph of x squared. Remember what the graph of x squared was? Does anybody remember what the graph of x squared is?
Not to memory.
What? It's pretty simple. How about the inverted catenary curve? Nobody, give me what it is. Kevin, remember what the graph of x squared is? No. Anybody? Charles? The graph of x squared. The graph of x squared. Remember we had the graph of the square root of x? Who said that? Rip, congratulations. All right, remember the graph of the square root of x was that v.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, sorry, that was the absolute value of x. That was the graph, the Nike swish. The absolute value of x was the v. The graph of just x is a line. The graph of x squared, which is a quadratic, is the parabola. Any quadratic will graph and be a parabola. A parabola, if you will. And that really is the whole thing about this lesson number 84. That's really all you need to know, except for one thing. If the x squared is positive, the parabola is a u. If the x squared is negative, It is an upside down U.
An N.
Counts. You can call that an N. Wait, some would be right, I suppose it is. Okay, same thing with any of these parent functions. Okay, if I put a negative in front of this, the negative square root of x, this would make this negative. If I put a negative in front of this, it would open downward. That, ladies and gentlemen, is all for right now you need to know about that. Yay?
Yay.
Good, because we're forging ahead. We're gonna do like 6 lessons today.
Wait, so do we not have to know how to graph it?
You don't. There's a whole section on that that they don't get to just yet. Second, take out your notes under Pythagorean Theorem.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
And do you still have your triple sheet, or do I need to give you one?
I need to remind that.
Yeah,
No, I need one.
blah, blah, blah. Oh, I lost my throat.
You guys are whining.
The hole fell out of my thing. You intentionally ripped it out. I know. Where did I put them, ladies and gentlemen? Believe you me, I spent days on this.
Oh, I know that. Is this?
That's it. Where did I put all them?
Just in my cut, on my binder, the holes are broken.
Does anybody know where I could have possibly put? Oh, here they are. Who needs one?
Did we get them this year?
I don't think so.
Those are ones you found in the-
Some people are responsible and keep their notes from you.
Well, I have them. I
I
just didn't
have them.
transfer.
If you need one, take one. If you don't, take it anyway, because then you copy it. Now, just as a speedy review, in hyperspace here, remember the Pythagorean Theorem, as stated by the scarecrow, in which it was, is simply this little a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And remember, ladies and gents, this is only when you have a right triangle. It do not work for nothing else. It has to be a right triangle. And the deal with the right triangle is this. This side here, the side opposite the right angle, is called the hypotenuse. And it is always the letter C. The other two sides are called the legs of the triangle. And it doesn't really matter which one you call the A or the B, they are the same. Typically, we call the short one A and the long one B. Okay, and then, so if you have a right triangle, and if it is, let's say this is 2 and this is 5, generally, you very much love it. Oh, you take whoever you want.
Okay, that's,
Yep.
you want me to wait till you're done with your lecture?
No, they'll figure it out.
Okay, perfect.
Should I tell you the smart ones first, because they're the ones that can be missed? No. You can go in alphabetical order.
Okay,
Do you want to take a couple of them at a time, or just
sure,
one?
I'll take Charlie and Anna.
Charlie and Anna, because we actually continue math after in another 2 hours or something.
Okay, right, perfect.
So back to this, ladies and gentlemen. You hope, your hope, Ronnie Johnson, your hope is that these 2 and this 5 fall somewhere on your little thing here. Because if it does, you don't have to do any calculating. The third number's there, you just plug it in. But it's not, which means, unfortunately, you have to actually use this formula, which we haven't done a whole lot of. But it's not that hard. Watch how easy it is. First of all, you would write it down, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Secondly, you would do what? Put parentheses, thank you for. Thirdly, you plug in the numbers. The numbers would be 2 and 5. Those are interchangeable, it doesn't really matter. This one you don't know. So then you just do what's 2 times 2? 4. 5 times 5? 25. 4 plus 25 is? 29. And if 29 equals c squared, it doesn't work out evenly, but what is the letter C? The letter C is the square root of 29. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an irrational number. You know it has to be between the square root of 25 and the square root of 36, so it's got to be between 5 and 6, but the answer is simply the square root of 29. And like good Americans, you'll just pull out your calculator and type it, and you can get whatever decimal it is close to. You'll never get exactly.
Now we should do it on our own.
Well, you should, but notice I gave you the simplest one. You also have to understand what happens. Everybody always does that easy thing, but what happens if you're given this and that, and you're asked for this?
Uh-oh.
That means you just have to solve the equation a little bit differently. Same thing, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The problem this time is just that you know the c squared and not the a squared. I don't know what a squared is. I know b squared is 7 and c squared is 12. Doing the calculations there, a squared equals 49. A squared plus 49 equals 144. What do I do at that point to solve it, Leah? You can tell me. How do I get rid of this 49 so a squared is by itself? No, not yet. Nope. Subtract, because it's addition. You do the opposite. Subtract 49, subtract 49. Which gives you what? Oh, must be what?
95.
95. So now you're left with a squared equals 95. And a then would equal what, Ephraim? If a squared is 95, what's a equal? A square root of 95. Can I simplify the square root of 95? Anybody know? It would be between 9 and 10. But you also have to do this if you remember back from 7th grade. 95 breaks down to the square root of 5 times the square root of what? 19? So it doesn't factor. You just have to make sure you can't factor. 80 equals the square root of 95. Which we should do. Let's look at the square root of 95. Brendan says it's between what and what? 9 and 10. How do I do the square root of 95? 95 square root. 9.7467. 9.7467. Very good guess there. What time does class go to?
21.
Oh, now River, which one do you want to do? Oh, let's do this one. I'm going to give you one I'm going to leave you with one. What if this was the problem? And this comes right out of problem letter C. R6. Let's say this is R, this, and this side is the square root of 85. How long is side R?
Oh.
It's not going to be as bad as you think, River. Let me just preface this with, what happens when you square the square root of 85? You get 85. Square root of 85 times the square root of 85 is 85. So when you put it in the Pythagorean Theorem, the square root's actually going to go away. So try it. Try it, people. Try it, River. Don't just look at
Wait,
it.
no. You said the square root of 85 is 85?
The square root of 85 squared. Square root of 85 times the square. When you put it in the Pythagorean Theorem, you're squaring it. And the square root of 85 times the square root of 85 gives you just a normal 85.
Oh, yeah.
That is an important little mathematical concept. Forget Brendan Massey. Look at how fast that pen's going, Brendan. Go, go, go. You can figure this out. I wish we had the math calculus. Go really fast. I think you guys would have had a fair chance of getting second or third.
No.
I think if they were kept keeping score of yesterday's tracking, we would definitely got third.
Yeah, we wouldn't.
But I actually think you guys actually, I mean, I was expecting them to be bigger, faster, and stronger than they were.
They weren't as
We
good as I
didn't do-
thought they would have
I
been.
didn't
We
either.
didn't do half that.
No, we took second and third, and maybe did we win something or two? Did Carolina win the long jump?
Carolina won the long jump, and she also won the sprint.
I will tell you what we didn't win was the girls' discus. This girl, listen to this. The junior high state record in the discus is 89 feet.
Oh my God.
Well, no, wait, don't say my gosh yet. This girl that we had throw first yesterday, she threw it 106. Her first throw, she broke the state record by 16 feet on her first throw.
I got it.
She was like this. It wasn't like she was like super big or super whatever. She was good. Oh, let's see if River or Brendan, I'm guessing nobody else actually bothered. But Kevin, did you figure this out? I'm gonna write it down here. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. River says the answer should be
R equals 7.
Brendan?
I'm not certain. Like,
I'm quite certain I got this.
I'm not fine.
And Dawn.
We got just one more problem this night and I'm done. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. Look, learn, and listen here. Let's say R is A squared. So I'll leave that A squared. B squared would be 6 squared, and C squared would be the square root of 85 squared. So 6 times 6 is 36. And the square root of 85 times itself gives you a normal 85. Because if you have two identical square roots, they end up being. So if you just take 36 and subtract it over, you end up with a 49 over there. A squared equals 49. A equals the square root of 49, which is in fact 7. Now when I come back, just for fun, then we talk about midpoints. That's what today's fun and exciting question is about. Kevin, you will be so much wiser after I come back.
Will he get to amaze his friends with everything he learned?
And your countrymen and your relatives.
So bad.
You know what?
I was really close to that.
What, you haven't even done it with it. I don't know about the pictures. I never done anything across that.
You know,
Yeah, so
you were,
maybe
maybe
we
we didn't
didn't
have the sentence because if you have it,
The eyes are hold
that color, and then you have to smile for your teacher.
It never makes my mouth happy.
Okay, well, I don't look
I
at
did that, scroll trying.
maybe that, I don't know.
I did bowling, lawn darts, and hand grenades.
Can we move our seats? Is this table empty?
That table-
We're missing a lot of
No,
it.
we're missing like 5 students.
We're missing
But I am recording you because you know those people will want to watch.
Sure, they're gonna wanna watch, they're gonna wanna.
And they want to know how to do.
Okay,
So great.
what's in it? If you need one, quickly go get one. And I should have, 29 here.
Yes.
30 is on the new one.
Yes.
So 29 to me, 30 on the new one.
Like actually, one is like.
Not the. It's on there, up there on top.
He was gonna give it to me. And it's like, here, it's
Or
like,
no, grab my hand.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Listen, I don't throw anything at Charlie. I think I scared him already. I was trying for the garbage can.
I'm really gonna scare Charlie in about a minute, especially if he didn't turn in his book.
And your whole feature has.
So, who's online today?
It's supposed to be.
I don't know, should I sit on this thing? Is this like sittable?
Yeah.
Miss Shum found it at a garbage can, garage sale, one of the two.
It was free.
She found it on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was on the curb actually.
Yeah.
So there could be ants living in it. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
you never-
termites.
you never know.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Think pasta died.
Michelle is on it though, so.
Leah,
She would've gotten the
jeez.
ants first.
And her backside? It would have invaded her first.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll sit down.
She loves her chair.
We left off with Liesel having extreme nightmares, so much so that she started wetting the bed. And Mr. Hoffman, he comes in and he consoles her, but she also says that is where she learned her first lesson in reading. He's not a very good reader, he's not very smart, but he chooses to be patient with Liesel and help her read this book that fell out of the bed when they went to change the sheets. And it happens to be the one and only book that she has. It is the Grave Digger's Handbook. He's not quite sure why this book is so important, so she explains that it was not necessarily what's in the book or what the book has to say, it's the memories that are attached with that book. And that is the last time she sees her brother, and the last time she sees her mom. And so she doesn't really care what's inside that book. She just is more concerned about the attachment that is there. Brody?
He's on there.
So.
Run.
Okay. It's okay. It's all good. It's read aloud day, so it's really good. It's all good. So here we go. Looking back, Liesel could tell exactly what her papa was thinking when he scanned the first page of the Grave Digger's Handbook. As he realized the difficulty of the text, he was clearly aware that such a book was hardly ideal. There were words in there he'd have trouble with himself, not to mention the morbidity of the subject. And as for the girl, there was a sudden desire to read it that she didn't even attempt on. There was a sudden desire to read it that she didn't even attempt to understand. On some level, perhaps she wanted to make sure her brother was buried right. Whatever the reason, her hunger to read that book was as intense as any 10-year-old human could experience. Chapter 1 was called The First Step, Choosing the Right Equipment. In a short introductory passage, it outlined the kind of material to be covered in the following 20 pages. Types of shovels, picks, gloves, and so forth were itemized, as well as the vital need to properly maintain them. This grave digging was serious. As Papa flipped through it, he could surely feel Lisa's eyes on him. They reached over and gripped him, waiting for something, anything, to slip from her lips. Here, he shifted again and handed her the book. Look at this page and tell me how many words you can read. She looked at it and lied. About half. Read some for me. But of course she couldn't. And when he made her point out any words she could read and actually say them, there were only 3. The 3 main German words for the. The whole page must have had 200 words on it. This might be harder than I thought. She caught him thinking it just for a moment. He lifted himself forward, rose to his feet, and walked out. This time, when he came back, he said, actually, I have a better idea. And in his hand, there was a thick painter's pencil and a stack of sandpaper. Let's start from scratch. You guys know the deal of sandpaper, right? Ooh, the power of words. Liesel saw no reason to argue. In the left corner of an upturned piece of sandpaper, he drew a square of perhaps an inch and shoved a capital A inside it. In the another corner, he placed a lowercase 1. So far, so good. A, Liesel said. A for what? She smiled. Apple. He wrote the word in big letters and drew the misshapen apple under it. He was a house painter, not an artist. And when it was complete, he looked it over and said, now for B. And as they progressed through the alphabet, Liesel's eyes grew larger. She had done this at school in the kindergarten class, but this time was better. She was the only one there, and she was not gigantic. It was nice to watch Papa's hand as he wrote the words and slowly constructed the primitive sketches. Ah, come on, Liesel, he said when she struggled later on something that starts with S. It's easy. I'm very disappointed in you. She couldn't think. Come on, he whispered played with her. Think of Mama. Strong match, which means trade peg. She shouted, and Papa roared with laughter and then quieted. Shh. Yes, you can't have your suckers in your mouth while you're taking your pictures. Shh. We have to be quiet. But he roared all the same and wrote the word, completing it with one of his sketches, a typical Hans Huberman artwork. This is Mama. Papa, she whispered, I have no eyes. He patted the girl's head. She'd fallen into his trap. With a smile like that, Hans Huberman said, you don't need eyes. He hugged her and then looked again at the picture with a face of warm silver. Now for tea. With the alphabet completed and studied a dozen times, Papa leaned over and said, enough for tonight. A few more words? He was definite, enough. And when you wake up, I'll play accordion for you. Thanks, Papa. Good night. A quiet one-syllable laugh. Good night, Showmensch. Good night, Papa. He switched off the light, came back and sat in the chair. And in the darkness, Liesel kept her eyes open. She was watching the words. The smell of friendship. It continued over the next few weeks and into summer. The midnight class begun at the end of each nightmare. There were 2 more bedwetting occurrences, but Hans Huberman merely repeated his previous cleanup heroics, got down to the task of reading and sketching and reciting, and in the morning's early hours, quiet voices were loud. On a Thursday, just after 3 p.m., Mama told Liesel to get ready to come with her and deliver some ironing. Papa had other ideas. He walked into the kitchen and said, sorry, Mama, she's not going with you today. Mama didn't even bother looking up from the washing bag. Who asked you? Swear word. Come on, Liesel. She's reading, he said. Papa handed Liesel a steadfast smile and a wink. With me. I'm teaching her. We're going to Amber Upstream, where I used to practice the accordion. Now he had her attention. Mama placed the washing on the table and eagerly worked herself up to the appropriate level of cynicism. What did you say? I think you heard me, Rosa. Rosa, Hans said to her at one point. Quietly, his words cut through one of her sentences. Could you do me a favor? She looked up from the stove. What? I'm asking you. I'm begging you. Could you please shut your mouth for just 5 minutes? You can imagine the reaction. They ended up in the basement. There was no lighting there, so they took a kerosene lamp and slowly between school and home, from the river to the basement, from the good days to the bad, Liesel was learning to read and write. Soon, Papa told her, you'll be able to read that awful grave book with your eyes closed. And I can get out of that midget class. She spoke those words with a grim kind of ownership. In one of their basement sessions, Papa dispensed with the sandpaper. It was running out fast and pulled out a brush. There were few luxuries in the Huberman household, but there was an oversupply of paint, and it became more than useful for Liesel's learning. Papa would say a word and the girl would have to spell it aloud and then paint it on the wall, as long as she got it right. After a month, the wall was recoated, a fresh cement page. Some nights after working in the basement, Liesel would sit crouched in the bath and hear the same utterances from the kitchen. "You stink," Mama would say to Hans, "like cigarettes and kerosene." Sitting in the water, she imagined the smell of it, mapped out on her papa's clothes. More than anything, it was the smell of friendship, and she could find it on herself too. Liesel loved that smell. She would snip her arm and smile at the water cooled around her. The heavyweight champion of the schoolyard. The summer of 39 was in a hurry, or perhaps Liesel was. She spent her time playing soccer with Rudy and the other kids on Himmel Street, a year-round pastime, taking ironing around town with Mama and learning words. It felt like it was over a few days after it began. In the latter part of the year, two things happened, and Jeff wants you to know this. September and November 1939. Number one, World War II begins. Number two, Liesel Memminger becomes the heavyweight champion of the schoolyard. The beginning of September. It was a cool day in Mulching when the war began and my workload increased. The world talked it over. Newspaper headlines revealed it in it. The Führer's voice roared from German radios. "We will not give up. We will not rest. We will be victorious. Our time has come." The German invasion of Poland had begun, and people were gathered everywhere, listening to the news of it. Munich Street, like every other main street in Germany, was alive with war. The smell, the voice, rationing had begun a few days earlier, the writing on the wall, and now it was official. England and France had made their declaration on Germany. To steal a phrase from Hans Huberman, the fun begins. The day of the announcement, Papa was lucky enough to have some work. On his way home, he picked up a discarded newspaper, and rather than stopping to shove it between paint cans in his cart, he folded it up and slipped it beneath his shirt. And by the time he made it home and removed it, his sweat had drawn the ink onto his skin. The paper landed on the table, but the news was stapled to his chest, a tattoo. Holding the shirt open, he looked down in the unsure kitchen light. "What does it say?" Liesel asked him. She was looking back and forth from the black outlines on his skin to the paper. "Hitler takes Poland," he answered, and Hans Huberman slumped into a chair. "Deutschland über alles," he whispered, and his voice was not remotely patriotic. The face was there again, his accordion face. That was one war started. Liesel would soon be in another. Nearly a month after school resumed, she was moved up to her rightful year level. You might think this was due to her improved reading, but it wasn't. Despite the advancement, she still read with great difficulty. Sometimes sentences were strewn everywhere. Words fooled her. The reason she was elevated had more to do with the fact that she became disruptive in her younger class. She answered questions directed to other children and called out. A few times she was given what was known as a Wachsman in the corridor. Definition of a Wachsman: a good hiding. Not hiding as in hide and seek. A good hiding means a whack. And they were never fun. She was taken up, put in a chair at the side, and told to keep her mouth shut by the teacher, who also happened to be a nun. Now, my grandfather would tell stories. He went to a Catholic church. And, you hear the stories of the rulers and you think that it's just a made-up story. He said it was not a made-up story. If you talked out of turn, you put your hands on the desk and she would whack your knuckles with it. So you didn't talk out of turn the next time. Or They would make you go and stand in the corner with your nose touching the wall. And you'd have to stand there for hours on end. Yikes. She was taken up, put in a chair at the side, and told to keep her mouth shut by the teacher, who also happened to be a nun. At the other end of the classroom, Rudy looked across and waved. Lisa waved back and tried not to smile. At home, she was well into reading the Gravedigger's Handbook with Papa. They would circle the words she couldn't understand and take them down to the basement the next day. She thought it was enough. It was not enough. Somewhere at the start of November, there were some progress tests at school. One of them was for reading. Every child was made to stand at the front of the room and read from a passage the teacher gave them. It was a frosty morning, but bright with sun. Children scrunched their eyes, a halo surrounded the grim Reaper nun, and Sister Maria, by the way, I like this human idea of a grim Reaper. I like the Sith, and it amuses me. This is Death speaking to you. In the sun-heavy classroom, names were rattled off at random. Waldenheim, Lehman, Steiner, they all stood up and did a reading, all at different levels of capability. Rudy was surprisingly good. Throughout the test, Liesel sat with a mixture of hot anticipation and excruciating fear. She wanted desperately to measure herself to find out once and for all how her learning was advancing. Was she up to it? Could she even come close to Rudy and the rest of them? Each time Sister Maria looked at her list, a string of nerves tightened in Liesel's ribs. It started in her stomach and had worked its way up. Soon it would be around her neck, thick as a rope. And when Tommy Miller finished his mediocre attempt, she looked around the room. Everyone had read. She was the only one left. Very good, Sister Maria nodded, pursuing the list. That's everyone. What? No. A voice practically appeared on the other side of the room, and attached to it was a lemon-haired boy whose bony knees knocked into his pants under the desk. He stretched his hand up and said, Sister Maria, I think you forgot Liesel. Sister Maria was not impressed.
Sorry, I didn't want to shout out while you're reading.
No.
Is there anyone I didn't call back in here? Did everyone come to me? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. She plunked her folder on the table in front of her and inspected Rudy with sighing disapproval. It was almost melancholy. Why, she lamented, did she have to put up with Rudy Steiner? He simply couldn't keep his mouth shut. Why, God, why? No, she said with finality. Her small belly leaned forward with the rest of her. I'm afraid Liesel cannot do it, Rudy. The teacher looked across for confirmation. She will read for me later. The girl cleared her throat and spoke with quite defiance. I can do it now, sister. The majority of other kids watched in silence. A few of them performed the beautiful childhood art of snickering. The sister had had enough. No, you cannot. What are you doing? For Liesel was out of her chair and walking slowly, stiffly toward the front of the room. She picked up the book and opened it to a random page. All right then, said Sister Maria, you want to do it? Do it. Yes, sister. After a quick glance at Rudy, Liesel lowered her eyes and examined the page. And when she looked up again, the room was pulled apart and then squashed back together. All the kids were mashed right before her eyes, and in a moment of brilliance, she imagined herself reading the entire page in faultless, fluency-filled triumph. Jess says, a key word, imagined. Come on, Liesel. Rudy broke the silence. The book thief looked down again at the words. Come on, Rudy mouthed it this time. Come on, Liesel. Her blood loudened. The sentences blurred. The white page was suddenly written in another tongue. and it didn't help that tears were now forming in her eyes. She couldn't even see the words anymore. And the sun, that awful sun, it burst through the window, the glass was everywhere, and shone directly into the useless girl. It shouted in her face, "You can steal a book, but you can't read one." It came to her, a solution. Breathing, she started to read, but not from the book in front of her. It was something from the Grave Digger's Handbook, Chapter 3, In the Event of Snow. She memorized it from her papa's voice. And in the event of snow, she spoke, you must make sure you use a good shovel. You must dig deep. You cannot be lazy. You cannot cut corners. Again, she sucked in a large clump of air. Of course, it is easier to wait for the warmest part of the day, when it ended. The book was snatched from her grasp, and she was told, Liesel, the corridor. And as she was given a small boxton, she could hear them all laughing in the classroom between Sister Maria's striking hand. She saw them, all those mashed children grinning and laughing, bathed in sunshine, everyone laughing but Rudy. And in the break, she was taunted. A boy named Ludwig Schmeckel came up to her with a book. Hey, Liesel, he said to her, I'm having trouble with this word. Could you read it for me? He laughed, a 10-year-old smugness laughter. You dumb cough, you idiot. Clouds were filling in now, big, clumsy, and more kids were calling out to her, watching her seethe. Don't listen to them, Rudy advised. Easy for you to say, you're not the stupid one. Nearing the end of break, the tally of comments stood at 19. By the 20th, she snapped. It was Schmeckel, back for more. Come on, Liesel, he stuffed a book under her nose. Help me out, will you? Liesel helped him out, all right. She stood up, took the book from him, and as he smiled over his shoulder at some other kids, she threw it away and kicked him as hard as she could in the vicinity of the groin.
Yeah.
Well, as you might imagine, Ludwig Schmeckel certainly buckled, and on the way down, he was punched in the ear. And when he landed, he was set upon. And when he was set upon, he was slapped and clawed and obliterated by a girl who was utterly consumed with rage. His skin was so warm and soft, her knuckles and fingernails were so frightening tough despite their smallness. You dirty pig! Her voice too was able to scratch him. You! Can you spell ARSCHLOCH for me? That's a swear word in German. Oh, how the clouds stumbled in and assembled stupidly in the sky. Great obese clouds, dark and plump, bumping into each other, apologizing, moving on and finding room. Children were there quick as kids gravitating toward a fight. A stew of arms and legs of shouts and cheers grew thicker around them. They were watching Liesel Memminger give Ludwig Schmeckel the hiding of a lifetime. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, a girl commented with a shriek. She's going to kill him. Liesel did not kill him, but she came close. In fact, probably the only thing that stopped her was the twitchingly pathetic, grinning face of Tommy Mueller, still crowded with adrenaline. Liesel caught sight of him, smiling with such absurdity that she dragged him down and started beating him up as well. What are you doing? He wailed. Only then, after the third or fourth slap and a trickle of bright blood from his nose, did she stop. And on her knees, she sucked in the air and listened to the groans beneath her. And she watched the whirlpool of faces left and right, and she announced, I'm not stupid. And no one argued. It was only when everyone moved back inside and Sister Maria saw the state of Ludwig Schmeckel that the fight resumed. First, it was Rudy and a few others who bore the brunt of suspicion. They were always at each other, hands. Each boy was ordered by each pair was clean. I don't believe this, the sister muttered. It can't be. Because sure enough, when Liesel stepped forward to show her hands, Ludwig Schmeckel was all over them, rusting by the moment. The corridor, she stated for the second time that day, and for the second time that hour, actually. This time, it was not a small oxen. It was not an average one. This time, it was another of all, it was the mother of all corridor boxens. One sting of the stick after another, so that Liesel could barely be able to sit down for a week. And there was no laughter from the room, more the silent fear of listening in. So the students heard everything in the corridor. At the end of the school day, Liesel walked home with Rudy and the other Steiner children. Nearing Himmel Street, in a hurry of thoughts, a culmination of misery swept over her. The failed recital of the Gravedigger's Handbook, the demolition of her family, her nightmares, the humiliation of the day, and she crouched in the gutter and wept. It all led here. Rudy stood there next to her. It began to rain, nice and hard. Kurt Steiner called out, but neither of them moved. One sat painfully now among the falling chunks of rain, and the other stood next to her, waiting. Why did he have to die, she asked. But still, Rudy did nothing and said nothing. And when finally she finished and stood herself up, he put his arm around her, best buddy style, and they walked on. And there was no request for a kiss, nothing like that. You can love Rudy for that, if you like. Just don't kick me in the eggs. That's what he was thinking, but he didn't tell Lisa that. It was nearly 4 years later that he offered that information. For now, Rudy and Liesel made their way onto Himmel Street in the rain. He was the crazy one who had painted himself black and defeated the world. And she was the book thief without the words. Trust me, though, the words were on their way. And when they arrived, Liesel would hold them in her hands like the clouds, and she would wring them out like the rain. I love this book. Those are powerful words. No, unless I read really fast.
She wasn't sad about killing the two boys.
She didn't kill him, Ephraim.
I know that, but she like basically beat him up so much. Why would she kill him? Make fun of him?
I don't think I would have very much remorse for someone who taunted me. I don't necessarily know that I would have gone to that extreme, but when you are pushed to the brink of the last little bit that you have, here she was so excited. Here she was so hopeful that she could read that book. And her fluency was perfect. Why was her fluency perfect? Because she had memorized those words. Our fluency is always perfect. When you say the Pledge of Allegiance, it's because, and you say it fluently, it's because you have said those words over and over and over again. And that is how you develop fluency. Memorization is always good for fluency. That's why one of your strategies is to read it over multiple times, because it not only helps with your comprehension and understanding, but it helps with your fluency. She was so sure of herself, only to be humiliated. And she couldn't take it anymore. Obviously, as she's sitting there in the gutter and she says, why does he have to die? She's got a lot on her mind, a lot on her brain, and it's just all come to a head. And Rudy seems to be a good guy, even if he did paint his face charcoal from the Jesse Owens race, or even though kind of went with bribery for a kiss. I went, but it's turning out to be a good friend. Remember to read your progress so you're ready to discuss on Monday.
I mean, the dream. It's the
The last chapter, I don't get it.
You did not get, what's happened with the last chapter?
It's so confusing.
The book is so long.
It's worse than Poppy.
It is. It really is.
Did you know that was possible? Because I really did.
It is not worse than Poppy.
It's so confusing. I don't get it.
See,
Poppy, at least understand.
well, I'm glad I'm here to clarify things for you. Just think if I made you read the theys and the thys and the thous, the actual 1700 version of Pilgrim's Progress.
They already talked like
I
it's
have the
17.
book.
I know, it's like modern language.
No,
It's not modern language.
Yes,
It's like
is.
thou art going to the bank or something like
We
that.
don't say thou are going to thou
Yeah.
bank.
There's modern
It's
language, not water,
The
modern.
battlement of thy God, thy
Yeah.
slingshot of thy armor, No, it's so confusing. I don't know.
Thy
understand any of it.
And I put down thy armor of thy Lord.
It can't keep focusing. It just.
Oh, Leo,
I read it.
it's not that difficult. You can do it.
Aunt Ray was hard.
Yeah, Amber was good at least.
It was
No.
okay.
It was a good book.
I
But it was
didn't
hard
like
to
it.
read.
It was just a lot of words on the page.
There was like a lot of.
Oh, Mr. Hunt, those books that have so many words on a page. You know?
It's so fun.
Yes, I know exactly.
I read this entire series in one year.
Well, it survived
Okay.
Mrs. Nair and Michelle, so I guess it's an okay bench. I guess it's an okay bench. Oh, I hate when my binder opens up and all my notes come out. Bathroom break, drink break from this.
Yeah, it was 232 out of 235. I literally.
read one whole book.
What did you do?
No.
There's a motto.
I read one chapter. Just kidding, what was the drink?
Yeah.
I read one book.
Wait, let's go to the end of the book and see what that.
Or it's a clear.
I read one series already.
My sister used to read books.
That's gonna be
No, never.
My older sister,
Yeah.
not younger.
Brendan already did that.
Who do I have at home?
Nobody.
I don't know if Conrad at home yet,
Where was Connor?
He was here.
Oh, I missed him.
Yeah.
Oh, Diedrich, I saw Lily and then got sidetracked and began to say hi because she was taking pictures. Are you at home now, Lil?
Yeah,
Lily, do you have book D at home?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I gave it to Connor. Kevin and Kendall, did I give you guys book D? Okay, I think I just gave it to Connor. So Lily, I'll send it home with Allie, okay?
Thank you.
So that's what I have to do today. Lily and Connor, did you guys finish your test?
Yeah.
You did and turned it in? Okay, then, I mean, I may preview book D, but I don't even have it out. So basically today we're finishing the end of the module tests and having a study hall right now. So I have nothing else. Connor, did you finish or no?
I'm on like number 22.
Okay. Why do you do that to me, Rev?
It's a black thing, so it
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like
All
they're.
right, so that's what you're doing today, Connor, is we're finishing that module
Yeah.
test. Okay.
Where did I put my,
Where, oh, where did I?
you put this at the camera, you weren't even looking at the,
I wasn't.
Olivia's not in this class. Is John Lick in this class?
nope.
No.
River.
Yes.
Charlie. Ella. Efron. Brendan. Brody?
Yeah, he's absent.
He's absent?
Wait, can we?
Brody's not here, he's
I
I
still
still
Wait.
work up graduation.
Did he know he was going to leave?
Yep.
And did I put on classroom, if you know you're not going to be here, come see me, because I expect this done on Monday? Did you read classroom? I did. Ronnie's in trouble. Ronnie? Ronnie's in this class. Bella's in this class.
Yeah.
I awoke
Leah, is she in this
from my
class?
dream.
Yes.
Ellie?
No.
Like, wow. The main character wasn't here.
Ephraim and Brendan?
Yeah?
How come you decided not to listen to Miss LaBella write your name on the test?
Oh, I was in the bathroom, so I didn't do it.
You were, oh, thank you for admitting you were not paying attention. Yeah, that's not good when you're not paying attention, is it?
Well, he was in the bathroom when she
Yeah, I was
explained
in the
all
bathroom.
that.
Everyone was
Oh,
in the
okay.
bathroom, not Brendan.
Brendan, I appreciate your honesty. Thank you for
Brendan's
discussing
just
that.
focusing on getting the
Like,
test.
Brendan, where is your what?
Yes, something like that. It's something- No, it's weird.
That's not really possible.
It's possible.
I think it's never.
You was in the cabinet.
Had the pilot in, because
Bigger.
you were not.
Well,
Not
you have the state record or just the.
maybe I say.
I did the ball. I did.
Yeah, but the 800 as well. It's-
He also has
I don't know the influence.
I did.
See,
did?
Yes, I did.
So when you.
But he's no longer in
Just
college,
passed it down.
so.
Yes, oh, that would be helpful. Thank you, Brendan. Leah, you did not finish. River, you did not finish. Yours on yours. Did you finish something, Central?
No, I had things on today.
Okay. No, so that's fine. So yours is on things, Central. Bella, you didn't finish.
Ephraim, really?
Ronnie, you didn't finish. Yeah. Ella, you didn't finish. Ephraim, Andy, you finished. Wait, you didn't get one yesterday?
Yeah, it's, you said it's good.
Oh, so you didn't even start. Absolutely ask me a question. Maybe I should give you my answer, but no, I know all of it. And then I'm going to look at yours from here. You find it on this, what you wanted to ask me, on what you put, and then I'll come talk to you about it, okay?
What's this?
Did I give you the wrong test? Yes. Oh. Well, you know it's not the third. There's nothing. If they didn't give you the option, you said, you know. Yeah. Because, because I know from experience, you're going after, was it 12 weeks? 12 weeks, you can actually tell what's what every Well, okay, that's 4 days. Okay, no, that's okay. So after week 10, it forms like arms and legs as well as fingers and toes. So because it has arms and legs. Okay. So that's why. Oh, this is, you have to take the private school. And then the school, like private school. It doesn't say that there's any special here. It just says it's on the effective. I see why you can vaccinate young kids.
Are you taking what you know from COVID and applying it to? No. That they're not vaccinated. So let me explain it to you. Least likely to see that the people who have, right? So this group of people are probably least likely to see it because they're saying that. Yeah, least likely to see that. I mean, they didn't get it. Which group of people probably didn't. This isn't affected, this is the cases, these are the people who had it. So the graph is not who's affected by it, this group had the most cases. They're the same, so these people, 0, 4, they probably got the vaccine in the middle, right? And it still works, right? Now wait a second, if it only works for a few years, we have to get it every couple of years. So this group probably hasn't got it in the last couple of years, and you're very good for the years. That's why. And it's gonna say this isn't most likely to get it, it's most likely who has it. What's the age? Yep. That's the age. There is no number. This is the disease that you have to get it every 2 years. The graph below shows the number of cases of women health that occurred in Sydney, Australia during the first half of 2005. Did you even know there was a 0 to 4-year-old, 4.6 people got it. Out of 35 to 39, 12.9% got it. 85, 85 and 2% got it. Which group of people probably haven't got their booster? Guys, if you have a question, I will be right back. I'm going to find 2 more people. Good morning.
You should.
We'll save the easiest for last.
This is easy.
Yeah.
Seems good. That's RJ's daycare.
The diagram shows the nervous system. Okay, let's do that. Which best describes the nervous system level A and B in the diagram? So brain and spinal cord, brain and motor nerves, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, or peripheral nervous system, central. That makes sense. The first one is this point to A and this point to B? That help you? Third, the whooping cough is a highly contagious disease and it spreads well. Vaccine for the disease is only effective for a few years. That means we need a booster in a few years. The graph below shows the number of cases of whooping cough that occurred in Sydney, Australia during the first half of 2005. So all of these are the number of cases. These are the age groups. So 0 to 4, there was 4.6 in county whooping cough. Okay, makes sense? So which group of these people, which age group, least likely received the booster? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you continuously right? That seems to be the only factor to maintaining the booster. So the case of the vaccine makes sense? Okay. The graph below shows the number of cases moving out in the same Australia in the first half of 2005. These are cases, number 4, 5, 9. How many cases did they have? Okay, in 2005. So this is 3.9% of the population. Which group of people, which age group, least likely received a recent vaccine? Which group never got their booster shot? Age 5 to 9, probably not getting the booster shot. 15, 24, 30. This one probably never got their next shot. Number 42. Well, number one cases, 4 and 6 of the group from 0 to 4, not have vaccine cases, were reported that they had no. But okay. Honey, do you have this?
Oh, yeah.
think I'm actually late. I don't know what you guys have next. River, Kevin, Hannah, Leah, Brendan, you didn't even finish?
No, I have 3 more.
3 left, that's all right. I'm gonna take it from you though.
I have 1, but
One.
I mean, I'm on the page of the small.
Yeah, I have the picture.
Yeah.
The following diagram shows a cross section of the village that permanent intervals of small intestine. Okay? Which of the following best describes the nutrients get from the small intestine to other tissues in the body? Oh, you think blood transports the nutrients from the small intestines? Nephrons filter the blood in the small intestines. The blood in the small intestines is filtered through the glomerulus. When nutrients pass from the small intestine to the urinary system, they're wasted. So there's a couple that it can't be because the parts of the body aren't in this. Okay. And there's a couple others where those parts are not in the small. Yeah, we did it, and I forget where that one is. But does it mention it in there? Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. The process of elimination.
Yeah, and I'm done.
Sorry, Mr. Hahn.
Can you kill a succulent?
They're hard to kill. I left mine out all winter in my berry garden. They came back.
Like outside?
Well, I put them in my berry garden.
Your berry?
Berry.
Oh, berry.
Berry
Did
garden.
the berries show up?
They do show up. You wouldn't believe it. They show up and they fly all over. It's kind of complicated.
A ruckus is what they use. They seem
I'm
to be
really
deeply
good.
ingrained in whatever they're doing here.
Well, finishing a
There's
module
lots.
test.
Wonder how the great American kids are doing.
Well, who knows what- I lost my list now.
I'm probably waiting
River,
in
you
line.
finished.
Yeah.
Lee, you finished. Brendan, you didn't finish. And Kevin, you didn't finish. So Hannah, we'll finish yours on Monday then.
Wait, do they need to finish that? Give them time.
Well, Hannah's pretty far. from
It's
it.
who?
Hannah's pretty far from finishing because she wasn't here yesterday or something. Brendan only has.
Wait, she wasn't here yesterday?
Yeah,
She was early.
How does that even happen?
If Brendan has time at the end of class, he can finish. If not, I'll grab it. Or listen to Mr. Hahn, and then if he finishes it.
We do, we just have one very complicated thing to do. Why? You're gonna have to speak.
I
up.
didn't
You
even
really-
hear
you
that.
really want me to respond to that, you're gonna have to say something on that. Listen, this is, the ball's in your court.
I have to leave out
I have to leave at something.
of
11.
Oh, well then we've got 20 minutes. All right, focus, ladies and gentlemen, we just gotta get through this. I would say we didn't have to, but since the great American kids are not there, that would make her life too easy if we didn't. We got a blanco piece of paper. Today, your life is about to be changed forever, quite possibly for the good. Here is what we're gonna do. If I ask you to find the midpoint of, Ronnie, give me a coordinate point, like 4, 2 or something like that. Not really big numbers, because I want people to go big numbers. 3, 4, and, let's see. Brendan, Nancy, give me another point. Oh, for crying out loud. I thought you gave me a hard, an easy one. All right, what I'm asking you, if I'm asking for the midpoint, that means this. If I were to graph these 2 points, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 2, here's that point. I am looking for the point that is exactly in the middle of that, which you're going to say, how in the wide, wide world of sports will I ever find that point? Well, we will do it because we will use the midpoint formula. And one of the reasons we like to use the midpoint formula is because you look very smart when you use the midpoint formula, because the midpoint formula has like square roots and points and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. Here it is. You ready for it? I'm going to stick it on you. The distance, or the midpoint, equals, watch this, the square root of, and yes, you need to draw your square root sign that long because there's a bunch of stuff that goes under it, x2 minus x1 squared, x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared, plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Oh, wait, is that the distance? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the distance formula. Where's the midpoint formula? Scratch that. But keep it there, don't erase it, because I have to give it to you anyways. I was going to say, that's not going to give you a point. The midpoint formula is this. You might as well write them up. Let's say Brendan Massey not only asked me for the midpoint river, he asked me how long that line was. That's the distance. The midpoint, okay, let me also tell you, right? It's not, you know, this is one of the things in math we don't always get to, so that's why this is. Ready? Ready?
Oh, yes.
The midpoint equals x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma. Guess what the other one is? y1 plus y2 divided by 2, comma. Wow, this is brutal. Which only makes sense, right? Because what happens when you add two numbers and divide by 2? You're finding their average is what I'm actually doing here. You take this, cut it in half, you find its average there. So here are my 2 points, and again, it would be good for you to label such things as, I would always go x sub 1, x sub 2, wow, I'm sorry, wow, I should quit. Can I just stop? Would it be okay to stop? No. You will persevere. x1, y1, x2, y2. If I'm looking for the point that falls in the middle, let's do this one first. Here's what it looks like. M equals x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Fill them in the blanks. I get, what am I getting? What was it? x1 is 3, x2 is 2, y1 is 4, y2 is 2, 3 plus 2 is, I get 5 halves for this point, and I get 4 plus 2, 6 halves for this point, which is 3. So this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is my midpoint. 2.5, comma 3, which only makes sense, right? 1, 2.5, comma 3, which was right there. Somewhere about there. I did draw it. Good, I just managed it. Should I draw like more, sketch it a little nicer so you can see it better? Say yes. Yeah, I don't like to leave this the way this is here. Hold on. Let me draw these points again, a little cleaner. That was not my best effort, unlike most times. Here, let's do this again. 0.34. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you think that's better? 0.22. 1, 2, 2. So here's the line I'm talking about. And I said the midpoint would be at 2.5, comma 3. 1, 2.5, comma 1, 2, 3. Look at, isn't that better? People that don't want homework will always applaud at that, but that's not usual. All right, so that's the midpoint formula. And then we have the distance formula, which we probably should have put under the letter D. So, I don't know, should we do a whole nother thing under distance? Should you just grab a new piece of paper? I think you should. Get a whole blank piece of paper. Well, wait. How about this? Wait, when we're done, River, when we're done, I need you to take out a blank piece of paper, write distance formula, and then under distance formula, do what? Say C midpoint formula. Because then you don't have to rewrite any of this, it just tells you that you have to look somewhere else for it. Otherwise, you're gonna end up having to draw all this all over again. Leah, I know what I'm talking about. This is not my first merry-go-round. Wait, is that how that goes? This is not my first merry-go-round? What is that, River?
Just some coordinate plane
Here we go.
notes.
I'm gonna rewrite the formula here for you. X sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Now, just for fun, before we even do this, who do you think I should have take a guess at this? River's overrated.
Ronnie.
Ronnie Johnson, your name came up more than once.
It's not that hard.
No, I want to say, how many units long do you think this line what would be a good guess as to how long this line is in units? Notice that from here to here is 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. How long would you say that probably is? How many? Okay, that's a good guess. Maybe 3. Yeah, it could be 3. I'm gonna guess it's probably between 2 and 3. Let's see if that's what comes up with our formula, shall we? So here we go. Distance equals the square root of parentheses minus parentheses squared plus parentheses, parentheses minus parentheses, parentheses squared. That confuse anybody? Just a lot of parentheses. What was my x sub 2? It was 2. What was my x1? 3. Right? Am I confusing anybody yet? My y2 is right here, it's 2. My y1 is 4. So far, so good. Now doing the math, distance equals, I'd rather be a greater than. What's 2 minus 3? -1. But I have to square it eventually. No, let's not do that yet. What's 2 minus 4? 2 minus 4, people? -2, but I have to square that as well. Hold on a second, somebody's calling me.
If it's Aiden on a roller coaster.
You think it's somebody from Joliet asking if the hot dog stand open? Were you here when I answered it? And somebody said this is the hot dog stand.
Answer it, Tom.
Kind of embarrassed the last time. Oh, and I guess what? I just got an email.
You don't have
Guess
to
who
go.
it's from? You know what he said? Actually, he started out by saying, I just found out that all my emails to trust have been blocked by my company. That's funny. No wonder nobody knows what's going on with Anna anymore. All right, so back to this. -1 times -1 is 1. -2 times -2 is?
4.
-2 times -2 is?
4.
4. Add those together, I get. And so I need to find out what the square root of 5 is. So Ronnie says, hey, why don't you use your calculator? Ronnie? Let's do that. Square root of 5 is, let's see if Ronnie was close, 2.23 inches.
We could have said 2 already.
2.2. That's pretty close, Ronnie. He said 3. What were you going to guess?
Probably 2.2.
Someone must have left a message. What's that?
I probably would guess 2.2.
Would you?
Probably guess 3.
Now, in case you're wondering, where do you suppose the distance formula comes from? Come on, somebody be mathematically inclined here. Charles?
Distance equals 3 times.
What?
Ephraim knows
No,
he just doesn't want to
Doesn't
say.
from the midpoint formula.
Ephraim just doesn't want to.
Wait, let's investigate. Here, let's do, well, do this for me, will you? Draw yourself a grid. And let's pick some easy points here. Let's pick, let's pick, I don't know, let's pick 2, 2 as a point. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then let's pick 5, 6. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you pretend that you're interested, I might just go easy there. So here's my line. No, you're not interested yet.
Oh.
If I asked you to find out how long that line was, and you did not have the distance formula, how would you figure out how long that line is? Wait, we have a savior back there, Kendall Wills. Kendall says, hey, we've got this Pythagorean theorem. If we make a right triangle out of this, this is the hypotenuse. Yes? Well, remember what the Pythagorean theorem is. A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
I'm guessing it's 5.
Found it. I did it so it worked out evenly for you. Let's pretend we don't know that it's a triple. Yeah. All right, I know that. How do I figure out what this distance is from here to here? I need to know how long it is from here to
The
here.
number of units it's long.
Well, how do I figure out what the number of units is?
Like count 2.
It's 5 minus 2, isn't it? So wait, let's make this. This is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. So it's x2 minus x1, right? X sub 2 minus x sub 1 tells me how long a is, right? Right?
Yeah.
How would I figure out how far b is? Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. And that equals c squared, right? But I don't want c squared, I want just the letter c. How do I get rid of that square next to the c? What does c equal? If c squared equals this, what does c equal? Well, we just did it like 5 minutes ago. Kev?
Square root.
The square root of all of this. And guess what this is? Have you seen this before? What does it look like?
Whoa.
Oh, except I didn't square it. Did I not square? I don't think I squared it. This should have been this square, and that square, and this square. And then river, knowing because I actually picked a triangle that is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, and it's a perfect Pythagorean triple, it will actually work out. Will it work out? I think it probably will. Do I have to do it? No, that's not good. You're supposed to pretend like you're interested.
Wow. That was fancy.
All right, so here, this will be the all-determining factor.
Uh-oh.
How many of you are there? 1, 2,
No.
4, 6, 8, 10, 11 of you.
Oh.
I need more than 50%. I need greater than 50%. That means 6 of you have to get this problem correct.
That's
Maybe
not
5.
Find the distance.
One of you has to get it right.
Find the distance between.
Make it so it comes out easy.
Nope, I'm picking one right out of the boat. And it doesn't work out evenly.
Oh.
-3, -2, and 6 of you have to get this right for no homework. 4, 2.
Yeah, obviously try.
What?
Yeah, can you?
I can't verify e-learners aren't using calculators, so we're going by whoever in this class is. Of course, Diedrich could petition me and Johnson could petition me, but I need verification of this. All you have to do is plug it into the formula. Please don't draw the triangle. Use the formula, please, huh? Just use,
You don't have to know exactly.
no, just put it in the formula.
Why would you guys not put in the formula?
Why would you want to graph it? You're not gonna get anywhere by that. It doesn't work out evenly. It's not a perfect triple. It's gonna turn into the square root of something, or something times the square root of something. Look at Brett Mancy, his pen's just flying again. Well, that is a nice multicolored pen. Where'd you get that? That's the only one I've ever seen anybody actually use. Most people just threw them away.
I used to for a while.
Well,
My dad took mine.
30 cents, you can't help for whatever.
It's good.
It really broke? How does it break?
All of the pens are on.
You get
How? Yeah.
I should have taken it back. Actually, goes more than 50%, more than that. Do this, I'm rooting for you, Charlie. Plug it into the formula, that's all you have to do, is plug it into the formula. Two? Maybe it's confusing. You know what the X2s and the Y2s are? Wait, Anna, what time do you have to go? Oh my God.
Oh.
Try your best.
6 of you have to get it right. Come on.
I mean,
Actually, I don't even know if I have it right. So I'm not gonna say.
whoever's like, you gotta get it, gets it wrong. I mean, I won't.
That call, by the way, was somebody asking me if we take debit cards. I'm guessing not as a teacher.
They better get it.
And Apple Pay and Google Pay. Did you get it, Rick? Oh, look, let me see if there's even a fighting chance. I think we got a fighting chance. I think there's a fighting chance here. All you gotta do is plug the thing into the formula. Do it, take your time. Take a couple deep breaths, take your time. You don't have to do anything but the formula.
Plug it in and hope. Pray.
hope I did it right. The negative.
Well, a double negative means you add.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Hope everybody knows that. A double negative means you add.
Starting to think again.
Charles, what do we got? Well, I can't make clean promises.
Yeah, I think it's negative.
I told you, you do get the square root of something.
The e-learners will not cheat this one. We need them.
We need that. Pull through.
Yes.
Well, are you presenting? How do we know they can't see it?
What's that?
I don't want to access any money.
Wait, it doesn't, what?
Brendan, you had it. You just didn't.
It's the square root of 25. In fact, it was the square root of 25, you get 5.
I'm so sorry, guys.
I do notice that
I don't
there's a good number of
understand.
people that just don't take, you know, the way I've always told people to do is put parentheses in there and get all those sort of things. They still refuse to do it, and then they wonder why.
John, I parenthesized. Actually, no, I
know you
didn't.
did.
I just kind of substituted it.
I will tell you, it's gonna go right down to the wire here.
Oh, no.
The wire, ladies and gentlemen, the wires. Ronnie, what do we got? We got a.
What?
Come on, yeah. What'd you end up with, 10?
Yeah.
Let me look at how this would shake down. What was the distance formula?
X sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared.
Oh, minus y sub 1 squared. did you pick these to be x1,
Yeah.
y1,
Yes.
x2, y2?
Yes.
And then everybody, I'm sure, put parentheses in for the x's and the y's.
Oh.
I don't think I'm putting the numbers in the spot.
Everyone redo it. Just.
I am redoing. I don't
Okay, like this would be 4,
Wait, I didn't.
Oh, no, I did it, but I know.
No.
I already messed up.
a negative 3.
I already messed up.
If you guys, if 6 of us don't get it
I
right,
have it.
that is
I have it.
sad.
I have it.
No, I already.
Try again,
And
guys.
this would
I'm
be
not
4
I got it again.
minus a negative
I don't want homework.
I got it. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
Oh, they're
smart
not
somehow.
2 4s. Wait.
You
Y?
put 2 4s.
Oh, I'm sorry, this y is what?
A 2.
Y sub 2.
3 people have it right.
Minus a negative.
3 of you need to get it right.
I have it right.
Okay.
Okay. I have what
2
River.
of you need to get it right.
I got it wrong.
I have what River had.
The e-learners may have to help us.
Do it again. Make sure you select these.
Connor Diedrich, are you out there? CJ,
Yes, I'm here.
I need you to just quickly email me what your answer to that problem is.
He just said it.
Okay.
Because you
Johnson,
can't say it out loud.
Lily Johnson, you too.
Oh, yeah.
Quickly, we're running out of time.
Yeah, you could type it in the chat.
Wait, I don't think they have a student.
No, I don't want to see it in the chat, I want it on my email.
I don't think there's a, is there a,
You should just write out words. Square root
Wait, I
of.
got different answers.
oh gosh, bro. It's not that hard.
I got a different answer, but I redid it, and I have what River had. So.
4 people have
I'm
it.
still waiting, I don't have.
Mr. Hana sent it.
All right, I'm gonna look.
Okay.
How do I get, oh,
Just refresh it.
it's very refreshing. Johnson, you got something for me?
I was just.
Don't forget to square it.
Mr. Hunt, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea.
Thanks for your brutal honesty.
It's only 5 people.
I have one last chance to walk around.
John, can one of them phone a friend?
Wait, Hannah's hands are shaking.
I hope everyone got it right.
Johnson, where are we at? Ronnie has the right numbers there. He can do the math right.
Mr. Hana, am I supposed to get the root or the point? Like,
Oh my gosh! One of you has to get it right.
Is it negative 7?
Here's what I need, quick, so we can do this, I need you just, I don't need to know who you are, I just need you to write it on this piece of paper, your final answer. Just put it in giant, I will come back and collect it because I cannot. Some of you have scribbled so much. I don't know what it is, write me your answer, quickly.
Literally,
We gotta get
one
outside,
of
it's already
you.
11:05 and we still have to run the
One
wheel.
of you.
Write your answer on it. Write your answer. Well, quick. I got no more time.
Why are you gonna test me?
No, it's write your answer.
Put your answer on it.
Anna, what you put?
65.
Wait, if Connor got it right, then we got it.
I don't even know.
Who put the square root of 65?
Before we spin to win it.
John, you didn't put fellas.
Oh, it was in the middle.
Okay, who put the square root of 65?
I did our car.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7!
Let's make sure we know why it's the square root of 65. A minus.
Okay, what if we all got it
is
wrong?
Plus 3, so this is 7 squared. 2 minus a negative 2 is actually 2 plus 2, which is 4 squared. 7 squared is 49 plus 16. Wait, I'm sorry. What was it?
Yes, 4, 9,
Yeah.
16.
Is 65 squared root.
How did you get 7?
Who would know Anna and Connor would be our saviors?
How did you get 3?
Yeah.
4 minus a negative 2. Wait, we have to pray. Do we have the wheel down or somebody just gonna volunteer? We're already 5 minutes short.
I told you to try. Good thing you did.
Mrs. Lash, what can I do for you?
Well, I don't think you did anything. I wanted to let you know you did.
Oh, we can do that.